Every single day, if you have diabetes, something is happening behind your eyes that you cannot see, cannot feel, and cannot stop. A protein in your blood is wrapping itself around the tiniest blood vessels in your retina and squeezing them shut, slowly, silently. And by the time your vision starts to blur, the damage has been building for years. Your annual eye exam? It probably will not catch this early enough. The treatments your doctor has been using? They are aimed at the wrong target entirely. And that is exactly why I need you to stay with me for the next 17 minutes. Because what scientists have just discovered changes the entire conversation about diabetic blindness. I'm Dr. Richard James. I've spent over 3 decades in clinical medicine, and what I'm about to share with you is a discovery that could fundamentally change how we prevent vision loss in people with diabetes. This is not a wellness trend. This is not a supplement recommendation. This is a peer-reviewed study published in one of the most respected journals in the world, and it identifies, for the first time, the exact protein that starts the chain of destruction inside your eyes. Here is why this matters to you right now. Diabetic retinopathy is the leading cause of vision loss among working-age adults. But what most people do not realize is that it does not stop being a threat after retirement. It gets worse. According to the CDC's Vision and Eye Health Surveillance System, 9.6 million Americans are living with diabetic retinopathy. Among seniors with diabetes between the ages of 65 and 79, the prevalence reaches 28.4%. That is nearly 1 in 3. And here is the part that should concern you the most. The damage starts years before you notice anything wrong. No blurring, no dark spots, no pain. By the time your vision changes, the destruction is already advanced. For decades, doctors have had one main weapon against this disease, a treatment that targets a protein called VEGF. But what if I told you that the real damage starts long before VEGF ever enters the picture? That there is another protein, one that was only just identified, that kicks off the entire chain of destruction. Stay with me, because the reason your treatments have not been working for everyone has finally been found. Your retina sits at the very back of your eye. It is thinner than a sheet of paper, and it is lined with blood vessels so small that your red blood cells have to pass through them in single file. That is how delicate this system is. Now think about what that means if you are over 60. Your circulatory system is already working harder than it used to. Your blood vessels have lost some of their elasticity, and the capillaries in your retina, those impossibly thin vessels, are among the most vulnerable structures in your entire body. They have no backup system. When they fail, the retina loses oxygen. And when the retina loses oxygen, it starts to die. When your blood sugar stays elevated over months and years, those tiny vessels start to weaken. They leak, they swell, and eventually, your body tries to grow new ones to compensate. But these replacement vessels are fragile and unstable. They bleed into the vitreous, the gel-like substance that fills your eye. And that is when your vision starts to go. Dark spots appear. Straight lines look wavy, colors fade, and in the worst cases, the retina detaches entirely. But here is what nobody talks about. By the time you notice blurring, dark spots, or distorted shapes, the disease has already been running silently for years. The retina has been starving of oxygen, and you had no warning. There was no pain, no redness, no signal your body could send you. The damage accumulated in total silence. And the treatments we have relied on for over a decade? Anti-VEGF injections. These are shots delivered directly into the eye that target a protein responsible for abnormal blood vessel growth. They have helped millions of people, but they only work for about 50% of patients. And for most of those patients, the injections do not reverse the damage that is already there. They slow it down, they manage it, but they do not fix it. So why hasn't your doctor been able to catch this sooner? Why hasn't the treatment been more effective? The answer to that question is the most important part of this entire video. In October 2025, researchers at University College London published a study in Science Translational Medicine, one of the most respected translational research journals in the world. And what they found could rewrite how we think about diabetic blindness. The protein is called LRG1, leucine-rich alpha-2 glycoprotein 1. You do not need to remember the full name. What you need to remember is what it does. LRG1 causes the cells that wrap around your smallest retinal blood vessels, cells called pericytes, to clench too tightly. Think of it like a fist slowly closing around a garden hose. The blood flow drops, the oxygen drops, and the retina starts to suffocate. To understand why this matters so much, you need to know what pericytes actually do. These cells act like tiny muscles wrapped around your capillaries. They control how much blood flows through. In a healthy eye, they gently regulate blood delivery to the retina. But when LRG1 levels rise, which happens when blood sugar stays elevated, these cells change. They transform into a more rigid, more contractile state. They squeeze too hard, and they do not let go. The UCL researchers used computational modeling to show that this constriction is enough to significantly impair oxygen delivery to the retina. That oxygen deficit is what eventually triggers the cascade of damage that leads to leaking vessels, abnormal vessel growth, and vision loss. This is not damage you can feel. There is no pain signal. There is no early symptom. It is happening in capillaries so small they are invisible to the naked eye. And your standard blood tests will not detect it. And here is the part that changes everything. LRG1 starts doing this damage before VEGF, the protein your current eye injections are designed to fight, even enters the picture. That means by the time your doctor starts treating you with those injections, the earliest and most critical wave of destruction has already been done by a protein nobody was even looking for. The study was led by Dr. Giulia De Rossi at the UCL Institute of Ophthalmology. The research was funded by Diabetes UK, Moorfields Eye Charity, and the Wellcome Trust, three of the most respected funding bodies in medical research. This was not a fringe study from an unknown lab. This was rigorous science from one of the top ophthalmology research centers in the world. So now you know the name of the protein that has been quietly strangling the blood supply to your retina. But here is the question that matters most. Can it be stopped? What the researchers did next is the most important part of this entire video. For years, the standard treatment for diabetic retinopathy has been anti-VEGF injections. Drugs like ranibizumab and aflibercept that target abnormal blood vessel growth and leaking. And they have helped. They have cut the number of patients losing significant vision roughly in half. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Anti-VEGF only works for about half the people who receive it. And even when it does work, it rarely reverses the damage that has already occurred. It manages the disease, it does not cure it, and it certainly does not prevent it. This research finally explains why. VEGF is not the starting gun. LRG1 is. By the time VEGF shows up and your doctor starts those injections, the earliest wave of damage has already passed. It is like calling the fire department after the house has been burning for an hour. You might save the structure, but the interior is already destroyed. This is not a failure of your doctor. This is not negligence. It is a blind spot in the science itself. Until this study, nobody knew LRG1 was the trigger. The entire field was treating a downstream effect while the upstream cause went completely undetected. Think about what that means for the millions of people who have been getting those injections for years. They sit in the ophthalmologist's chair. They endure a needle going into their eye. They come back every 4 to 8 weeks for another round. And for half of them, it is not working well enough. Not because the drug is bad, but because the drug was never designed to catch the disease where it actually begins. That is the frustration that this research finally puts into words. The treatment protocol was built on incomplete science, and patients have been paying the price with their vision. But when the UCL team blocked LRG1 in diabetic mice, something remarkable happened. The early retinal damage did not occur. Normal eye function was preserved. The fire never started. I need you to pay very close attention to this. Blocking one protein. That is all it took. And in those mice, the retina stayed healthy. Now, I know what you are thinking. Mice are not people, and you are right to question that. But what the researchers have already done next is what convinced me this is different from every other lab study I have talked about on this channel. Here is the part that separates this study from every other laboratory discovery. The researchers did not just identify the problem, they have already built the solution. The team at UCL has developed a drug, an antibody specifically designed to block LRG1. It has been tested. It has shown success in preclinical studies, and it is heading toward clinical trials in humans. This is not a 20-year-away dream. The company behind it, Diabetic, was founded in 2019 by two of the study's own authors, Professors John Greenwood and Stephen Moss. They hold the global patent rights, they have the drug, and now they have the proof that the target is real. Professor Moss stated that the team has already developed an LRG1 therapeutic ready for clinical trials, and that it could provide an effective new option for patients, especially those in the early stages of disease who do not respond to existing treatments. Now, I need to be honest with you. This drug has not yet been tested in people. It still has to pass clinical trials. But the fact that a treatment already exists, that it is not starting from scratch, that changes the timeline significantly. And the researchers believe the therapy could not only halt the onset of diabetic retinopathy, but could also be effective in later stages of the disease, where LRG1 continues to play a role. So the science is real, the drug exists, but I know the question burning in your mind right now: what can you actually do today, while this treatment is still in development, to protect your eyes? That is exactly what I am going to give you next. Now, I know some of you are thinking, I don't even have diabetes, so why does this matter to me? Here is why. Over 115 million American adults have pre-diabetes, according to the CDC's January 2026 National Diabetes Statistics Report. That is more than 1 in 3, and 8 out of 10 of them do not know they have it. The damage that LRG1 does can begin before you ever receive a formal diabetes diagnosis. If your blood sugar has been creeping up for years, this process may already be underway. And for those of you thinking this is just another mouse study that will never leave the lab, I hear you. But there is a critical difference here. The team did not just publish a paper, they built a drug. It exists. It has been tested in preclinical models, and the journal it was published in, Science Translational Medicine, is specifically focused on research that bridges the gap between the laboratory and the clinic. This is not a basic science curiosity. This is translational research with a clear path forward. For the first time in the history of diabetic eye research, scientists have identified the protein that starts the entire chain of destruction. Not the middle player, not the late-stage villain, the one that lights the match. That means we are no longer just talking about managing diabetic blindness. We are talking about preventing it. Before the leaking starts, before the abnormal vessels grow, before you ever notice a single dark spot in your vision. And this is not just about one disease. The researchers at UCL believe LRG1 plays a role in other conditions as well. Senya Therapeutics is also investigating LRG1 in chronic kidney disease and oncology. This one protein may be at the center of multiple diseases that affect millions of seniors. But the eyes are where the science is furthest along, and the eyes are where you can act right now. Dr. DeRossi, the lead author of the study, stated that their discovery shows diabetic eye disease starts earlier than previously understood, and that LRG1 is a key culprit in this early damage. Targeting this protein could give us a way to protect vision before serious damage occurs and prevent, rather than treat, blindness in millions of people living with diabetes. This is what decades of research has been building toward, and the fact that a drug already exists to hit this target tells you that this is not theoretical. This is happening. But right now, today, here is exactly what I want you to do. First, if you have diabetes, type 1 or type 2, ask your doctor about a dilated eye exam specifically screening for early-stage retinopathy. Not a routine vision check, not a glaucoma screening. A full dilated exam where they look at the blood vessels at the back of your eye under magnification. If you have not had one in the past 12 months, schedule it this week. Do not wait for symptoms. The entire point of this video is that symptoms come too late. Second, track your blood sugar like your vision depends on it, because it does. The tighter your blood sugar control, the less LRG1 your body is likely producing, based on what this research tells us about how elevated glucose triggers the protein's expression. Every point of A1C you bring down is a form of eye protection. Talk to your doctor about your target A1C and whether your current management plan is aggressive enough. Third, if you have a family member with diabetes who has not been told about this research, this video is your opportunity to change that. Knowledge is protection, and early screening is the single most powerful thing anyone with diabetes can do for their eyes right now. And fourth, keep watching this space. When LRG1 treatments reach clinical trials, you want to know about it, and I will be covering that the moment it happens. If someone you love has diabetes, they need to hear this. Not next month, not eventually, now. Share this video with them, because this is the kind of information that can change the trajectory of their eyesight for the rest of their life. Your eyes have been quietly asking for help. Now you know what has been happening behind the scenes, and you know what is coming. Get that dilated eye exam. Talk to your doctor about early screening. And keep watching this channel, because the next video I am releasing is about a medication that millions of seniors are still being prescribed that is doing far more harm than most people realize. I'm Dr. Richard James. Take care of your eyes tonight. I'll see you in the next one.